You might often see applications that have dynamic menu or tree navigation, or a top-level menu with submenu. Almost all application comes with a dynamic menu. In this tutorial, we will be making a dynamic menu with submenus, somewhat similar to what you just saw with QtDesigner in Python. I will give you all the code in decorated style sheet with this tutorial video. I will put the code in the description and give you link to where you can have the written tutorial with all the code used in this tutorial totally free of cost. I am using QtDesigner version 5.11.1, which is free or licensed under GNU LGPL version for developing the user interfaces. I love Python, so we will code with Python. This is a walk-along tutorial. So, you can design and code as you learn. This tutorial will mainly focus on how to design user interface with dynamic menus and a Python code that runs the application we developed. If you find this tutorial helpful, please leave a comment and like the video. This strongly helps in creating follow-up tutorials that will teach you how to develop a Python application. To learn how to develop an application with dynamic menu, let us create a livestock farm management project. To begin with, let us create a main window with QtDesigner that comes with a menu bar and status bar. However, we will not go in detail on how to create a menu bar. Creating a menu bar is simple and we will not delve much into it. We have just created a main window for our application. Let us drag a vertical layout. We will be creating 3 vertical layout components. First, the company name or application name. Second, the main application, and finally, the status label and an exit button. Anything or any widget dragged inside a vertical layout is positioned vertically. To distinguish this widget, let us rename the layout widget to something like main holder. Let us create a label, choose what font we like to use, resize the fonts and put it inside the vertical layout widget. Secondly, let us drag and drop a horizontal layout widget that must hold the main application. Drag and drop the tree widget and a stacked widget. With these 2 widgets, we can create as many menus as we like. Similarly, with the stacked widget, we can create as many pages as require. Double-click the tree widget or right-click on the tree widget to select edit items. To make things easier to understand, let us rename the column name of the tree widget to navigation. The other tab widget is items. There are 3 small buttons. The plus sign for creating or adding item. The middle button is for creating a submenu. And the negative sign is a button to remove unwanted creation. When you click the plus sign, a top-level menu with the default name new item was created. You can name it whatever you like. And you can rename it whenever you desire. For the sake of this tutorial, let us rename the first top menu to Piggery. Let us create 3 more top-level menus and name it Broiler, Layer and Calculations. After creating the top-level menus, let us go back and select the first top-level menu named to Piggery. Select the Piggery menu and then press the new sub-item button, which is in the middle in the extreme left bottom. By default, you will see a submenu with the name New Sub-Item. Let us rename it into sow, which stand for a female pig or a mother pig that will give new piglets. Press the plus button to create more new sub-item. Name it boars, which is a father pig that will reproduce. Similarly, let us create more sub-item as piglet and pig feed. The simple trick here is that, if you select the top-level menu and click the plus button, a new top-level menu is created. If you select the sub-item and click the plus button, a new sub-item or sub-menu is created. You can create as many as you like, name it whatever you like. But the given name must be meaningful and easy to distinguish. In this tutorial, we create a top-level menu with the name Piggery and 4 sub-menus under it. Similarly, we create a top-level menu Broiler and sub-menu like Starter, Grower, Finisher, and Broiler Feed. Let us drag the tree widget we just created and drop it into the horizontal layout. As the name suggested, any widget put inside the horizontal layout is arranged horizontally. Since we need only 2 widgets, the tree widget and the stacked widget that will hold pages, let us put or drop the stacked widget in the left-hand side of the horizontal layout. The thick blue line indicated where the widget will be positioned. Since we dropped the stacked widget at the right side of the horizontal layout, it is positioned next to the tree widget. Click anywhere inside the stack widget, scroll down to the bottom of the property editor. The last two items, the index and page name, are important. By default, whenever a stacked widget is created, there are two pages simultaneously. Look at the object inspector, you will see two pages created under the stacked widget. The first page with the name PAGE has an index value 0. The second page named page_2 has an index value of 1. Remember, the first default index value started from 0, not 1. You can rename any of the page name. You can also change the index value. But changing the page name will be enough in most cases. However, for the simplicity of coding in Python, the index value give immense importance. I rename the first page into piggery_main, but I also understand that its index value is 0. I rename the second page into so. Right-click at the widget last page, which is so, and then right-click the mouse. Select the insert page and after current page. Add more pages and rename them with meaningful text. If you give meaningful text and easy to distinguish, then you don't need to bother again and again with the index value of those pages you created. Now that we have created some pages, let us drag the stacked widget and drop it inside the vertical layout, which we have renamed it to main holder. Drop the horizontal layout under the company name label. Let us resize the widget. Oops, I have mistakenly give value to the stacked widget. So, I pressed Ctrl Z and then select the tree widget. I want the width of the tree widget to be constant at 250 pixels. When I meant constant, resizing the main window of the application must not affect the width of the tree widget. So, I put same value in the minimized and maximized values. Finally, let us drag and drop another horizontal layout. Put a button at the right side and a label at the left side. Let us rename the label into LBL_status to show the status of the application, and the button rename to BTN_exit. This exit button must be seen anytime, and whenever it is click or press, the application must be terminated. Once again, let us drag and drop this horizontal layout at the bottom of the vertical layout or main holder widget. Now, we have three-tier layouts. Company name or logo or application name at the topmost, the main application in the middle, and a status label with a button to terminate the application at the third or bottom layer. Select the main holder widget and give padding as you desire so that no important thing must be so close to the corner. Now, select the central widget and then press the layout in a grid from the menu bar. This way, our widget are positioned in a grid layout, and resizing the window of the application will not affect the layout of our widgets. You can change how the exit button appear. The size and the text, remember everything can be style sheet or change its appearances. I have a pre-written button style sheet. Right-click the exit button and select the change style sheet and then paste the code that changes how it looks and behave. Let us see how it looks. Press Ctrl+R and see how it looks. This is how our application will look like. But this is not what we expected. The tree menu is expanding only when double-clicked. Single-click works with the small arrow at beginning of each top-level menu. We will change this to single-click. Also, we will make each menu expandable and collapsible with single-click, both with the arrow and the menu text. I don't want the top-level menu to hide the sub-menus. This way, we can avoid repetition of clicking the top menu again and again. In many applications, there are times to navigate the submenus again and again. So, I don't suggest hiding the submenus unless there are lots of them, or in this case, if there is much room to show all the submenus. Now, let us select the tree widget and change the style sheet. I will paste the pre-written style sheet code. You can change this style to your liking. And you can simply copy and paste them. I put the source code link in the video description. Lastly, with the GUI, let us put some text in the stack widget pages that will distinguish each page. Save the file with proper name. I simply save it with a file name GUI.UI. We will link these pages with the tree widget menus, but that is beyond the scope of QtDesigner. That means, we need some code to control this application. Let us open PyCharm, create an environment to develop our application. First thing first, let us create a blank Python file and name main.py. This is the main file coded with Python that will load our application. This is the Python file that will load the GUI. Normally, when the GUI design is finished as desired, then it is converted into a .py file. In our case, since we are still in the development stage, both with the GUI encoding, we will not convert the GUI design file but rather load the actual .ui file. This way, we can change the GUI from QtDesigner and Python code from PyCharm. A simple rule of thumb is, unless you save the GUI design file in QtDesigner, any unsaved changes or modification will not load when you run the Python code. In your main.py file, copy and paste the minimal code that will load the GUI file. Change the file name. Also, you might need to tell where the file exactly is saved. You must also change the button name, the page name, page index value, etc. exactly the same with the GUI file from QtDesigner. In PyCharm, if anything goes wrong or if there is an error in spelling or wording, the debugger will show you. You can make adjustment as required. Remember, I will provide all the code completely free. So for now, you don't need to worry much about the Python code. This tutorial is mainly about creating a GUI using a QTreeWidget, building a dynamic menu with submenus, and using simple Python code to run and test how everything works. Now let's look at the Python code that runs our GUI. This is a very simple and minimal script. Its only job is to load the user interface we designed in QtDesigner and display it as a working application. We start by importing the required modules from PyQt6, QTWidgets and UIC to load the UI file, QMainWindow and QApplication, and the Python sys module. Next, we create a class called MainWindow, which inherits from QMainWindow. Inside the constructor, we call UIC.loadUI to load our GUI.ui file. Make sure the file name and the file path are correct. After loading the interface, we call showMaximized, so the window opens in full screen size. Finally, at the bottom, we create the application object, create the main window, show it, and start the event loop. In short, this code does only one thing. It loads the GUI and runs the application. It is the simplest way to test the interface during development. The code works, and the GUI loads correctly. Let me remind you again, since we are still in the development stage. Both for the user interface and the Python code, we are not converting the .ui file into a .py file yet. Instead, we load the .ui file directly from QtDesigner. This allows us to continue developing the UI and the code at the same time, and we can test and debug everything in real time while the application is running. This next block of code is only a partial setup, and it will not work yet because some functions are still missing. However, let me explain what this section is meant to do. First, we set the tree widget to use single-click selection. We make sure the user can select only one item at a time, and we also disable editing. This means the menu items cannot be renamed during runtime. Next, we connect the item click signal to a function named onTreeItemClicked. This function will control what happens when a user clicks a menu item. We will write this function later. We also connect the exit button to the close function, so clicking the button will close the application. Finally, we connect the item press signal to a function named onTreeItemPressed. This will allow top-level menu items to expand or collapse with a single click. We will also write this function later. Since these functions are not coded yet, this section alone will not run the application. We will complete the missing parts in the next steps. By default, QtDesigner allows a single click to toggle only the arrow next to the menu text. The menu text itself requires a double click to expand and display its submenus. However, with the code above, a single click now works for both the arrow and the menu text, for both top-level items and submenus. Since there is enough space to display all menu sections in our GUI design, I want all menus to remain visible even when the user clicks another top-level menu. Users may need to navigate up and down multiple times to ensure there are no errors or misunderstandings while working on their project. Therefore, unless the user intentionally double-clicks a menu to collapse it, any already expanded submenus should remain expanded. In this section of the code, only the button name needs to be corrected. When we run the application, PyCharm displays debugging messages. As mentioned earlier, the code is still incomplete, and the error messages simply confirm that. Our next step is to write the main functions that will activate all the menus and buttons. We will copy and paste the updated code again, and this will complete the entire script so the application can run smoothly without any errors. Recall that the first top-level menu is named Piggery, and its corresponding page is Piggery_main. However, for simplicity, I am using the page index, which is 0. The remaining code handles only the first two submenus. If the text "so" is clicked or pressed, the corresponding page name "so" will be displayed. Similarly, when the Boars menu is clicked, the page named Boars will appear. If you run the application now, you will notice an error. This debugging message appears because the "so" submenu was renamed to "sows", and its corresponding page was also renamed to "sows", both in plural form. In this tutorial, you will see that renaming only the page does not solve the problem. In the code, we still wrote the submenu name as "so", missing the final S. To fix this, we must return to QtDesigner, right-click the menu text, and double-click it to rename it properly. Now, when the "sows" submenu is clicked, it correctly displays the corresponding "sows" page. Also notice that I am no longer using page index values. This is because using the actual page names and menu text makes the code easier to read and remember. However, you may still use index values instead of the text or page names if you prefer. Copy the last two lines of code, the elif section, and the required function that will be activated. In this part of the tutorial, we will finish connecting the remaining top-level submenus. At this stage, you will notice that our navigation system relies on two types of functions. 1. Functions that handle top-level menu clicks and submenu clicks. 2. Functions that display or activate the corresponding pages in the stacked widget. So, let's continue by copying the existing code and making the necessary modifications so the other top-level menus work as well. In the same way, copy and paste the submenu sections, then rename and adjust them as needed. You can repeat this process, copy, paste, and correct as many times as required until all menu items behave properly. Finally, test your skills by making sure the last two top-level menus, along with their submenus, correctly activate and display their corresponding pages. If you find this tutorial helpful and would like to learn how to write code and build real working applications using QtDesigner and Python, just let me know in the comments. Your feedback is valuable, and it encourages me to create more tutorials like this.